proceedings with violation of the laws, gross misconduct, abuse of office, and crimes under national law. On the first slip of the charge, you are charged with gross violation of Constitution and other laws. And in 1A, it is alleged that as governor of Nairobi, you have violated Article 201A, D, and E of the Constitution on the principle of public finance management and Section 154 of the Public Finance Management Act, where it is alleged that the county the County Allocation Revenue Act has also been violated on the use of conditional grants from the national government by diversion or negligently causing to be diverted conditional funds, for instance, in the use of roads levy and bursary funds to pay for garbage collection and lawyers, contrary to bursary fund regulations and the approved budget. And that while you requested for 297 million for bursaries from the controller of budget, the funds were illegally used to pay garbage contractors and lawyers. Your Excellency, what would be your response to that?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. I wish, just in the essence of time, to go direct to my responses. Mr. Speaker, I will refer the House to my affidavit, page 167, Mr. Speaker, sir, to 172, sir.
That is a document marked 10H, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Mr. Speaker, sir, page 167. Mr. Speaker, on page 167, we have a voucher drawn in favor of Nairobi County Bursary Account 2019, being the payment of transfer of bursary funds totaling to 297,500,000. I think this is financial year 2019-2020, and the previous year, 2018-2019, we also allocated the same amount of 297 million. Mr. Speaker, the voucher is self-explanatory. It is not stamped paid. All vouchers prepared for payment, when the process is complete, it's always stamped paid. So it is true that this amount was never paid. Again, Mr. Speaker, I'll refer the House to page 168 of the vote account number R5318, Nairobi City Education. This is the bursary vote account. And it's highlighted, it's marked that the 297,500,000 for financial year 2018-2019 as at the period of July 2019 to June 2020, that this amount was availed for the payment of bursary, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on page 169 of my annexes in the affidavit, we have an authority to incur expenditure of 297,500,000 for bursary fund. The letter is also self-explanatory. And the last paragraph, the purpose of this memo, Mr. Speaker, is to request the money to be transferred to the bursary fund account. Mr. Speaker, on page 170, and the RTGS payment from Central Bank, it is also a self-explanatory document that these funds were not released and they are intact towards the end of financial year. That is the last box, stop reason, end of financial year. And during the COVID period, Mr. Speaker, there were so many challenges. Schools were closed. This document, Mr. Speaker, is a clear confirmation that the mover of my impeachment motion is dramatizing the entire process. He's playing politics. He's doing character assassination, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, the transaction reference number on box 1 is clearly marked, indicated. Processing reference is there. Originator reference number 619 there. Amount, and this is the Central Bank, Mr. Speaker, 297,500,000. And reasons, heading, Central Bank of Kenya stopped RTGS payments. Bank code is there, Mr. Speaker. Then the account number is there, Mr. Speaker. Name of the account holder is Nairobi City County. And status, Mr. Speaker, stopped. And the date, Mr. Speaker, it was the financial year, 1st September 2020. And they're saying we spent this money during the financial year. So this is towards the end of the financial year. CBK is confirming that these funds are intact, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, and the funds were transferred back to the CBK account. And they're very intact, Mr. Chair. What, Mr. Chair, the mover is not telling us, because he said that beneficiaries of bursary funds, students who used to benefit from my predecessor, Mr. Speaker, I refused to release their checks. But he's not telling the House what was the reason behind my action, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I will now refer the House to page 221 to 360 of my affidavit. And before I move there, I wish to clarify, and I want the ICT department to play the clip on bursary release of 297,500,000, Mr. Chair, for the previous financial year. Can we have that clip, please? program, which is a key deliverable of my county government, has continued to play a central role in enabling bright but needy students to go to school. During the TIFA polls survey, we were ranked as number 1 in terms of bursary allocation with a lot of transparency. We released over 357 million in the first one of bursary allocation program since we took over. We are also in the process of releasing another 400 million to our schools within the Nairobi City County, to poor students residing in Nairobi City County, residing in the slums, wherever they are schooling, may it be Coast, Central, Western, Nyanza. We are in the process of releasing these important funds so that to enable our poor, bright students from the slums of Nairobi, various areas of Nairobi, to get quality education.
Majina ni Marian. Nilipata sponsorship kutoka kwa Sonko, and I really thank him because dad alikuwa struggle sana kwa hizo months kabla niingie shule. I really wanted to go to a national school, so na thank Sonko sana kwa hiyo bursary. Najua ndasoma na my aim is to get an A kwa KCSE, and I hope that I achieve that goal ili ni make dad, mom na pia Sonko.
Mimi naitwa Steven Ngechu, mkaji wa Korokocho, na nafanya kazi ya kinyozi hapa tu Korokocho. Na furahi sana kwa sababu nikiwa katika harakati ya kazi yangu, mtoto wangu alikuwa anataka kufanya mtihani wa class 8. Na katika huo muda tulikuwa na wakati mgumu sana kwa sababu alikuwa mwerevu sana shuleni, na akanipromise kwamba anataka kwenda national school. Mwalimu wake pia akanikonfirmia kuna uwezekano mkubwa wa mtoto aende perform vizuri, sababu yeye ndiye alikuwa wanamwangalia shuleni. Na akaniambia, kwa sababu sikuwa na uwezo vile, sikutaka kumdiscourage. Nilimwambia tu afanye bidii, Mungu atafungua njia zake. Wakati mtihani ulitoka, akawa ndiye anaongoza kwa shule.
Okay, I think we can stop there in this instance of time.
Now, could you explain to the House, give background of this particular video, Your Excellency?
We have over 1,000 beneficiaries complimenting us on the disbursement of bursary to various beneficiaries, various schools countrywide, Mr. Speaker. But in the instance of time, I cannot play the entire clip, Mr. Speaker, honorable members.
When was this documentary taken?
This documentary was taken, even it was aired in various media stations around 6 months ago.
Now, in relation to bursary, would you like to state anything in terms of your relationship with the Assembly members?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. And before I move to that stage also, I wish to mention about a document, which I'll not table, Mr. Speaker, just for the record of the Hansard, just to mention about it, Mr. Speaker. It is a certified bank account statement from Cooperative Bank, Mr. Speaker, showing that funds amounting to 297,500,000, Mr. Chair, honorable members, were transferred from the CRF account to the Cooperative Bank account for financial year 2018-2019, And it clearly explains and shows all the beneficiaries, the schools and students, Mr. Speaker, to the tune of 297 million. And because we were denied a chance of producing this document, Mr. Speaker, I'm just talking about it. And we have 80 copies as advised by the Office of the Clerk, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the mover of the motion was trying to divert the real issues, Mr. Speaker. When he was talking about their checks, which I refused to release, Mr. Speaker. It is true, Mr. Speaker. There are checks we refuse to release because, Mr. Speaker, there are some members of the County Assembly who opened a fake educational institution at River Road. And this, Mr. Speaker, has been happening since 2019 during my predecessor's time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this institution was called Kobudho.
Which year did you mention? During the
since the period of my predecessor, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, from 2013 to 2017, I unearthed this scandal in 2018, Mr. Speaker. It is a very sad story, Mr. Speaker. The directors of this fake school were wives and relatives of MCAs. And Mr. Speaker, they were getting checks from even CDF accounts of various constituencies, Mr. Speaker, countrywide and in Nairobi. And Mr. Speaker, to prove those allegations, Mr. Speaker, on page 221, we have a memo.
That's 221 of the 10H, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, memo, Mr. Speaker, from the officer from DCI attached at the county offices, Mr. Speaker, Superintendent Eunice Maingi, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the letter is self-explanatory. I'll just go through it in the interest of time, Mr. Speaker. The memo is addressed to me after I complained to the DCI that we need this Kobudho school, Mr. Speaker. The memo is addressed to me, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, and it is dated 7th December 2018, Mr. Chair. Reference number, Mr. Chair, is 11A/2/4/5/1/volume 3 of 2018, Mr. Speaker. And the reference, because a police frauding the county government by forging bursary checks. Investigations commenced, and the investigators obtained court warrants to investigate the accounts of the community-based organization housed in Cooperative Bank of Kenya Limited and the county government development account housed at Cooperative Bank City Hall branch, Mr. Chair, honorable members. In the course of investigations, we established the directors of Kobudho Educational Center are as follows, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker. 1, Job Mark Omondi Imboko. This is a county government staff I inherited from the previous administration, working under the Department of Water, Mr. Chair. 2, Mr. Chair, Francis Odhiambo Ouma, a personal assistant to the MCA Karen, who is the ODM chair, Karen. 3, Mr. Speaker, Quinsta Adhiambo Ouma, wife to the PA of MCA, Mr. Speaker. 4, Mr. Speaker, Nancy Nasimiu, wife to the first accused. This is the DCI, Mr. Speaker, not Sonko. In the course of investigations, we established Francis Ouma is a personal assistant of MCA Karen. Investigations were extended to both Cooperative Bank of Kenya and Equity Bank. And we obtained original checks and image checks, account opening documents for Nairobi County government and that of the suspects, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in Equity Bank, the investigators obtained 77 original checks. The ones the mover was complaining, why I have not released them, Mr. Chair. And the checks were drawn by Nairobi City County Government, and on critically looking at them, they were all forged, Mr. Chair. All forged. I'll come to that, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in Cooperative Bank, we obtained 129 image checks drawn in favor of this fake school which does not exist, called Kobudho Educational Center, Mr. Chair. Investigators are saying we further established the suspects obtained money from county government up to the tune of 4.5 million shillings. Mr. Chair, I'll just go to the main points in the interest of time. After establishing the identity of the suspects, DCI, we involved the services of criminal intelligence personnel from CID headquarters. And on the 5th day of October at 3 a.m., we apprehended the accused persons. We conducted search in their houses and recovered 67 original checks drawn in favor of different schools within the county. 113 bursary application forms in the names of different applicants within Karen ward. And 2 payment vouchers originating from Nairobi County Government. Mr. Chair, honorable members, after investigations, the suspects were charged. The handwriting and specimen signatures of the 4 suspects were taken and forwarded to the document examiner at CID headquarters to ascertain were taken and forwarded to ascertain whether the accused persons were the authors of the checks, and we are yet to receive the report, Mr. Speaker. These are some of the witnesses, Mr. Speaker. DCI officers, we wanted to bring them to testify, but in the interest of time, the report is here, authenticated, suspects are in court, charges are there, Mr. Chair. But this is a very important memo. Let me just finish, Mr. Chair, because I'm on the last paragraph. Mr. Chair, the suspects were arraigned in court. These relatives of MCS arraigned in court on 8th October 2018. They pleaded not guilty to all the charges. They were released on cash bail of 400,000 or alternative surety of $500,000. Case is marked for mention at Milimani Locus on 5th January, Locus number 5, on 5th January 2019, with a view of fixing a hearing date, which was fixed, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the DCI is putting a note in my memo of the 7th December 2018. She's saying, because she's a woman, the case requires traveling because we have witnesses in Homa Bay County and some areas of Rift Valley. Therefore, we require urgent facilitation to enable us move with speed and cover what is remaining before the hearing date, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, moving to the next page, page 223. These proxies of MCS were charged, as I said before. The case file, police file number, I repeat, 11-548-2018, Mr. Chair. And the details of the suspects are there. The relatives of MCS are there. Description, gender, male, tribe, Luo, female, Luya. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the offenses are self-explanatory. Offense number 1, conspiracy to defraud, contrary to section 317 of the Penal Code.
Offense number 2?
Let me go first to the details of the charges.
Perhaps, Your Excellency, we would, in the interest of time, we would wish to refer to the document appearing on page 223, all the way to 230. No, not 230, 228. What document is that?
These are
223.
These are from 223 first to 226. These are various counts, various charges which were preferred.
What
to this-
document is that?
Sorry?
What document is that appearing on
These
page?
are charge sheets.
A charge sheet.
Okay, it's a charge sheet with so many counts.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members.
Yes, and there are other documents referred to at page 227 and 228.
I think before I go there, there's a
Yes.
important message I want
Carry on.
to raise here.
Carry on.
Maybe the
Excellency.
details of the charge, Mr. Chair, honorable, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Okay, accused, already we have the names, but the details of the charges, Mr. Speaker, on the diverse deaths between 30th May 2016, Mr. Speaker, before I became the governor of Nairobi, this scandal was there. Taxpayers' money was being swindled in Nairobi City County government, Mr. Speaker. So, on diverse dates, between 30th May 2016, during my predecessor's time, Mr. Speaker, and 13th September, my first month in office, 2017, meaning I'm the one who stopped this scandal during my time, but it was ongoing. We were losing government funds from during the last administration's time. So between May 30, 2016 and 13 September 2017, at a known place within the Republic of Kenya, jointly with others not before court, because there are even some MCAs who are supposed to be charged with these suspects, Mr. Speaker. I don't know why up to date they have not been arrested. The current MCA and 10 more MCAs who have not been charged and arrested, Mr. Speaker, due to political interference. So let me proceed with the details of the charges, Mr. Chair. Jointly with others not before court, by deceit and fraudulent means, conspired to defraud Nairobi City County government a sum of 225,000 by forging bursary checks, purporting them to have been issued by Ekaya Alumasi, who was our chief officer, finance, and Martha Wambugu, accountants working with the Nairobi City County government, a fact you knew to be false. That is count number one, Mr. Speaker. I'll not go to all the counts, but all these offenses, Mr. Speaker, started during the previous administration's time. But I think there are some important details, maybe member will read for themselves. So they were charged with count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's page 225, page 226, Mr. Chair, honorable members. There's another count also. Until charge account 9. But some charges are very, 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 very important to this case, Mr. Speaker. And because yesterday there were some grievous allegations which were made by the mover of this motion. So, Mr. Speaker, you'll allow me also to do a clarification on the scandal by MCAs who are diverting public funds for poor students to benefit themselves and their wives and families, Mr. Speaker. So you'll allow just to do a clarification, because after banking these checks to their fake school, they used to withdraw the money in cash from various banks, various branches in Nairobi City County, Mr. Speaker. So there are some charges where these proxies, wives of MCAs, used to go and withdraw these charges. I think I'll find it in one of the counts which are here. So count 2, on the 5th
Look
day
at
of
page-
October,
Look at page 234.
234. 234.
Yes, of that particular document.
It's a bank statement, but I wanted first to we move systematically, page by page,
Right.
as we reach there. So because we want to prove our case beyond reasonable doubts, Mr. Chair. Okay, page 227, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. These are checks. Number of check numbers of the diverted checks, which were drawn by the county and diverted and banked to this Kobudo educational account. And because this scandal involved various banks, withdrawals, and we needed to save the county from being swindled, bursary fund, Mr. Chair, we had to involve the Central Bank of Kenya. We have a DCA department at the Central Bank of Kenya, Mr. Chair. And I just want to refer the House to page 229, Mr. Chair, a letter from Banking Fraud Investigation Department, reference DCI, stroke BFI, stroke SEC, stroke 4, stroke 4, stroke volume 3, no, volume 30, no, 308, Mr. Chair, stroke 25, dated August 13th, 14th August 2018. The letter is addressed to us, County Secretary, County Government of Nairobi, and attention to the Chief Officer, Finance, and Chief Officer, Legal Department, Mr. Chair. Reference BFID, inquiry number 479 of 2018. Suspected fraudulent checks in respect of this fake school, Kobudo Educational Center, which was opened by MCS purposely to divert bursary fund to benefit themselves. And this was ongoing. I want to repeat myself, Mr. Chair, from the previous administration. But I stopped this scandal during my time, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the letter is self-explanatory because the members of the public do not have this document to just allow me to take the public through this document. This office is investigating a fraud case where the above institution, through its Equity Bank account number 1250168255007, was issued with multiple Nairobi City County government development checks, which were later cleared and paid through the above quoted account, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. To enable us complete our investigations, please furnish us with the following, of which we did, Mr. Chair, Speaker. 1, official list of bursary applications and beneficiaries for the period between May 2016, before I became the governor of Nairobi, 2016, Mr. Chair, 2017, 2018, and July 2018. 2, certified copies of counter files for the check numbers as per the attached account statement. 3, an officer whose duty is to disburse the funds to record statement to the effect. 4, any other information that can assist the investigations. Thanking you for your continued support. The letter is signed by Tobias Obondi, for Director, Banking Fraud Investigation Department. Mr. Chair, page 231 is also a summary of investigations. There are various letters were written to various schools, Mr. Chair. For instance, the DCI, there is a letter she wrote to Mulingi High School, investigation on theft of bursary funds of account city, county government. Of this office is investigating case of theft, contrary to section 65. It is alleged that some officers of Nairobi City County government in conspiracy with other members of the public stole funds meant for bursary allocation issued by the city county government. It is on record that some students in your school are beneficiaries of the said bursary allocation. This is therefore to request you grant the bearers of this letter cooperation in their investigation. Signed by Ms. Maing. At this stage, Mr. Chair, I'll wish the ICT department, because the story was in the public domain, but before I go there, there is a response. There's a response to the from the principal of this school. He's saying to it may concern reference Nairobi bursary check purported for Mulinge High School. And the school is saying, the above matter refers, kindly note, the school did not receive the said check. Number two, Mr. Speaker, the name indicated is not the name of the school. Three, Mr. Speaker, the school has not had any student by the name indicated and is signed by the school. I'll just at this juncture, the ICT to play, because the scandal was in the public domain when we were unearthing it, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Can we play that Citizen TV?
Okay, order. Honorable senators, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 1 p.m. Time to interrupt proceedings. The Senate stands adjourned until 2 p.m. this afternoon. The governor's team will have a balance of 1 hour, 50 minutes when we resume.